start translating more stuff.
Wow. I'm more fun. I'm not going to be doing this next Friday. I need someone to do it so that I could take advantage of it. I think it's a battery change.
So I did hear a little fuzzy.
How are you?
Great.
Yeah.
Everybody have a key? Oh, sorry. Hmm? Can you do it? Yeah. Have a key. It's on my pen, by the way. What's on? Yeah, it's fine. Can you give it to Reuven? Thanks for doing it. Oh man, it's amazing. You're stubborn.
Stubborn like me. Not very stubborn, that's for sure. I don't remember it. But that's not good. My brother, oh, that's one. My brother, who's actually moving here, is from Woodmere. So that's right. I went more for Father's Day. For a long time. Then he was cured. And then he was first of his Dallas photo, that needs a little refresher. That's it. That's all directions I get.
We're learning Ayekah on page Nun. Chet Adam Arishon Shechas Ha'atzmius. Page Nun. There are many explanations found in the Mefarshim and the Sefer. Try to understand what happened with Adam and Chava. To try to understand the shurish, the root of that chait of Adam and Chava, because it's something that is with us all the time, since it's the shurish of the downfall of man. So in our lives, it remains that shurish of each and every one of our struggles to do the right thing. There's that shurish, that root, that hasn't been completely fixed, that hasn't been repaired. And what is that? Omnam ha'adam alul l'shkach es atzmo. L'shkach es atzmo, the person forgets himself. The person forgets who he really is, forgets himself. L's'alem mimi shehu, to ignore who he really is. Ulanasos lahatikis chayim shlacher. Man is always trying to imitate others, to somehow live the lives of other people, but not him. This is the loss of tmimus. We've been talking about the midah of tamim tiyem Hashem lokecha, tmimus. The loss of innocence. Again, innocence is not an accurate translation, but it's tmimus. Hamaral masbir ki zehi yecheto shel adam harishon. Maral explains that this was the underlying chet of Adam Harishon. Shebikish la'atz madavish and asharich lo bemes. That's in the first paragraph of the Nesivas Olam, the Nesiv HaTmimus. The Maral is explaining the midah of Tmimus. And he says that Adam was bikish la'atz madavish and asharich lo bemes. He was looking for something that wasn't shaykh. It wasn't him. Bemes shorish kol Ayekah Shiur ha'atzmos. And in truth, the shorish of this whole oblivion that one has to oneself, is oblivious to who he is, who she is. A denial of the self, a complete distortion of one's self-image. And that possibility that a person can live his life, her life, seeking the opposite of who he or she is. All of that is mushosh b'chet hakadmani. The source of all of that is the chet of Adam and Chava. Which we saw the Rav Kook describes as listening to a voice outside of yourself. The snake was that voice outside of themselves. Listening to a voice outside of your own voice. It's not your own voice. That's the shorosh of chet. Hamaral melamed she'adam harishon pagam b'midas hatmimus. The Maral says this, that the Adam harishon was pagam. This was the pagam that he damaged this midah of tmimus. Ki kfishin is bar. Hatmimus hi hamida ba ha'adam mechubel l'ma shenasan b'Hashem. As we've been learning, tmimus is the midah. When a person, the midah of tmimus is a person being attached, being connected l'ma shenasan b'Hashem, to that which Hashem has given him, to who he is, to his own koiches, to understanding his own issues, his own chesroinus. The person is not looking, not to look for something that's outside of your own atzmos. Chutz me'atzmacha, outside of yourself. Not listening to any snake, even if it seems to be very, very friendly and nice snake. It's still a snake. And the word to describe the opposite of tmimus is begida. Begida means treason. It means to bogate, begida. It means to be a traitor. It means unfaithful. Treason. That's the opposite of tmimus. To be unfaithful. To be unfaithful to yourself. To who you are. I mean, Mela, you don't really have a kesher with Hashem. It says in Mishlei, Tumas Yesharim Panchem V'Selef Boigdim Yeshadim. So the pasuk sets up these two opposite types of the Tom, the Yashar, and the Boged. The English is Tumas Yesharim Panchem, the Tmimus of the just, of the Yesharim will guide them, Panchem will guide them. Selef Bogdim Yeshadim, the corruption of the Bogdim. They translate in English as the faithless. Faithless. The corruption of the faithless, Yeshadim will destroy them. Tumas Yesharim. Selef Bogdim. Ainu. Shalakol mida yesh mida hafachis lo. For every mida in kedusha, there's the opposing mida in tumah. There's the opposite mida. The diktekem haral min pasuk. The Maral explains this pasuk. Shehefach hatmimus, that the opposite of tmimus is hiha begida. The opposite of tmimus is begida. Now, of course, you see the word beged. All the Svarim talk about that. Begida, faithlessness, treason. The word beged, to be boged, beged means a garment. It means that you're dressed up as somebody else. You're wearing somebody else's outfit. That's faithlessness. You're making believe. It's a costume. They say that there were every Friday night, and all the chassidim and all the visitors and everybody would line up by the basis by the Ger Rebbe after davening to wish him a good Shabbos. And there were thousands of people. It took a long time. Oh, Shabbos, already passed by. Shabbos. And he didn't say, he would say good Shabbos to everybody. They would. If you've ever been there, like they run by good Shabbos. And there was this one fellow that he decides he's going to start to wear a backers and a strimel or a spot going to be put on. And he ran by the basis on the basis. I said, if I could beat him. Why you know that story? A father can beat him. Because the Rabbi has nothing against a Jew wearing a spadik and a backers. That's how they dress. But he knew that this guy wasn't bechlal, and that he wasn't holding me that. He had a lot bigger things to worry about than what he was wearing. So there's a certain begida. The Rabbi was giving me a little bit of to remind him that to be faithful to who you are. That's not who you are now, right now. That's not your inyan right now. You're getting off track. That's the begida is beged. Uvameha adam baigay, the top line of non aleph. And who's this person being unfaithful to? And who's he committing treason against? The answer is ba'atzma, himself. Because he's ignoring his own personality, his own character, who he is, and his own his own light. I got word from Eretz Yisrael that Rav Schwartz, the Bilvavi now, has a new Sefer called Da Es Chalkecha. Da Es Chalkecha. It's probably this Indian, because this is what's burning now before Mashiach. I'm assuming it. I didn't see the Sefer yet, but Da Es Chalkecha. That's what this is about. Hamaral Melamed Shadav Za'atzma Hu Shemesave Es Hamaves Shenigzral Adam Rishon. Remember that Mace is the opposite. The letters are Tam reversed. So what brought death to the world? And this is what's killing us. Even if you're healthy and well, but it's what's killing us. The Gzeres Mavos Adam Rishon Shalo Hatam is the Hepech of Hames. The letters Taf Mem is the opposite of Tam and Meis are two opposites. In other words, the loss of Tmimus brings to Misa. That's what the word is telling us. When you lose your Tmimus, you die. Again, that doesn't mean chas v'shalom that you leave the world, but you as a person, who you are, you're gone. You're gone. That's no longer you. It's somebody you're pretending to be, but it's not you. So the real person, who you are, you could say Kaddish for. That person is gone. And who's this person? It's an imposter. Somebody else is an imposter. It's a shade. Whatever it is, it's not you. The real you has died. That's what happened by the Chet of Adam and Chava. Adam and Chava, they ate from the tree. They didn't die. It says that when you eat from the tree, you're going to die. So the Ramban, all the Mepharshim talk about this. They ate from the tree, and they were fine. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. One of my grandchildren, when she was little, so the mother was telling her, my daughter was telling her, make a bracha or something, and she was generally good, and she did make a bracha. She forgot to make a bracha, and then she said to her mother, "Nothing happened to me." So it's the beginning, like nothing happened to me. So other Rishon and Chava, they ate from the tree, and nothing happened. Akasha. So why is it saying the Torah? The Baruch Shem says, "Meister Musa, you're going to die." Doesn't mean. So this the pshat is that you will become a mortal being. No, it doesn't mean you're going to drop dead, but you will become, instead of somebody that can live forever, you're going to become someone who that is mortal. You'll be a bar misa, a ben misa. But on a deeper level, it means that a loss of innocence, a loss of yourself. That's what the innocence and the beauty of a child is. That the child is himself. The child is herself. And of course, they learn how to imitate and impersonate, and they learn that in order to survive, you got to play the game. But before they play the game, there's that tamimus, and they can live forever. Live forever doesn't mean they're going to live past 120. It means they'll be alive. And alive means to be yourself. So when Hashem Yisbarach told Adam Chava, when you eat from the tree, you're going to die, it doesn't mean that they're going to die. It means that the person who I created has died. You listen to a voice outside, the snake, and you lost yourselves. And therefore that sweet, innocent Adam and Chava that I created has died. You're not here anymore. Somebody else is here. It's not you. And tshuva means to come back. Hashem, we have tshuva. And tshuva means you can come back to life. You can return. You can come out of that mace and become a tongue. You could regain that lost innocence, that lost tmimus. That's what tshuva is, to return to yourself, to come back to yourself. Remember once when my Syria was a little girl, so she wrote a long note to her mother about everything, how little children, the spelling, all funny, crazy stuff, and she was writing about how she said that I didn't talk nice, so I didn't say something nice. She was always, I don't remember, but she said I didn't talk nice, and that old Syria is gone, and the new Syria is here. That's true. That knows that Syria that messed up is gone, and here's the new Syria is here, and that's it. It's the whole story. Here, meaning that the original Syria, the original person. That's what Shuv is. To return to oneself. Right? Selma had the words, return to who you are. Return to who you are. Right? Again and again. Return to who you are. Return to who you are. There's a beautiful, beautiful song from Raz Hartman. Hashivein. He sang it when, remember a few months ago? And he sang it on request, even I asked him. It's the most beautiful song, Hashivein. That's what the whole thing of Hashivein. In order to be able to return to Hashem, you have to return to who you are. Return to who you are. Because a person's life means your life is the neshama and the atzmis of who you are. That's your neshama. That's what gives you life. And when the person ignores himself and is detached from himself, from the ani hanishmasi, and he's swept away by the worlds of other people. He's drawn after, he's swept away by so he's taking himself away from his neshama, which is a makor chai, which means he's died. He's biologically, he's breathing, he's alive, but he's died. This is one of the things that we see with the wrong use of medication, especially, I talk about this a lot, especially what they're doing with children that are not behaving according to the standard of that particular teacher, which I always have said is, instead of giving shots to 18 children out of the 30 in class, if you would just give one shot to the teacher, everything would be okay. You could save yourself a lot of money, a lot of trouble, and you wouldn't be killing these kids. The kids are supposed to have a good time. They're supposed to be, labor they can get in trouble. They're kids, they're children. That's a healthy thing for children. The Rabbi can't deal with it because he needs a shot. Much easier. Every morning they should begin like that. That a doctor comes in, gives this guy a shot, and the kids could have a good time. They will be happy, and he'll sit there and let the Rebbe be like that instead of the kid. Because the kids, half the kids are sitting there all drugged up, or else they'll say, "I'm sorry, your child can't hear. We have to speak to the therapist unless your child's getting that. So we can't have your child in the school anymore." That's it. I understand sometimes it's not possible. There are exceptions to that, but there's a lot more going on with that stuff than should be going on. It's because the teachers can't handle it, the school can't handle it. Some other kid's mother called up that, your Maishi's bothering my baruchel, and you better give him a shot, and that's it. And then you have these come to, so the Rebbe could be happy. So the Rebbe is all labor, they keep prepared his class. The problem is, it's a whole cemetery in front of it. Everybody's getting medication, so they're all sitting there, and the Rebbe is saying, "Rachis bar lukim l'shamayim esaras." But at least they behave. Everybody's behaving nice. You take away the neshama of the kid, of who the kid is. You give him a shot and you make him into somebody else. You take away his neshama. Again, I understand that there's a need and there are times, but it's not as much as what's going on. There's more teachers and parents and rabbis. It's an avodah of becoming patient and tolerant. I'm not saying it's easy, but the last resort is to medicate a kid. It's like the last thing to do is to medicate a kid. You see, you become separated from the makar of who you are. What would have been if Rabbi Brisker was a big troublemaker when he was a kid? Could you imagine if they would have put him on stuff? What would have happened to Rabbi Brisker? He wouldn't have been Rabbi Brisker. They say he was impossible to deal with. I don't know how true that is, and maybe it's exaggerated. They say he was very, very wild. These geniuses, a lot of them are wild. They were wild. You think the Rogachev sat at the table with his like this? You look in his eyes. You look at the pictures. He was a older man. No, he was. In holiness, he was. So the Rebbe would have said in Cheder by the first year Rebbe by Mrs. Rosen, I have to tell you something. Your son's not going to succeed. What's the matter? He doesn't sit still. He's walking back and forth in the middle of class. You ever have that in class? If you're a Rebbe, you have it. He starts walking back and forth in the middle of class. He can't sit still. He can't sit still because his mind doesn't stop moving, and his body can't contain those thoughts. So he's moving. So Mrs. Rosen, we can't allow little Yosela to come back. That's the Rogachov's name, is Yosef Rosen. We can't allow Yosela to come back unless we need to have a note from the psychiatrist that he's getting proper medication. We had an evaluation. The evaluation shows that he has the following Moshe Tevis, and because of all of those Moshe Tevis, so he can't sit in the class. Think of the greatest, some of the greatest geniuses of the past century. I don't mean 21st, I mean the past century, the 20th century. Think of them and where they went to school. I just want a few names about you. Where did Lubavitch Rebbe go to school? What yeshiva did he attend, Lubavitch Rebbe? He did not go to any.
No.
He went to Cheder when he was a little boy. He went to Cheder as a little boy. After that, he wasn't enrolled in Tanchei Tmim. No. Where did Rav Soloveitchik, Lubavitch Rebbe's friend, where did he go to yeshiva, Rav Soloveitchik? His father. Rabbi Yosef never went to yeshiva. Where did Rabbi Moshe Feinstein go to yeshiva? He went to Cheder. Only for a short time, he was learning with what was the, not Rabbi Prajana. He was learning with another god like the second I can't remember. He had heard some shiur. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein never got a report card. Rabbi Moshe didn't go to, was not a did not go to yeshiva. The list goes on. You ever see any graduation picture of the Rabbi Shama?
Yeshiva's recent, relatively speaking, in Jewish history.
No, there was a fascinating thing that I noticed in an article. There's an Adam Gadol, a big tzaddik that was nifter last week in Israel. Reb Gershon Edelstein. Reb Gershon Edelstein was a big chashuv person. He's a big Talmid Chacham. He was 100 years old. So the article was going on and on about how Reb Gershon, his brother also Reb Yaakov, died a few years ago. He was also a big tzaddik, Reb Yaakov. And they grew up in a place called Ramat HaSharon, which is where Sasson lives. It's the yeshivas. And they grew up in Ramat HaSharon. It's a whole story why they ended up over there. Their father was a huge Talmid Chacham. They got out of Europe before Hitler, Baruch Hashem. And they came to Israel, and they were poor. They lived in a chicken coop, in a big chicken coop. That's the only place they had to live in those when they first came. Afterwards, they got some kind of a place, and they didn't in that moshav. Ramat HaShon was like a little dust town. There was no yeshiva. So in the moshav, the father learned with them. The father was a big Talmid Chacham. The father raised these two brilliant boys. The father raised them, but it was, at some point it's important to be another, yeshiva or something, so the boys went and they met the Chazon Ish. They went to Bnei Brak and they met Chazon Ish, and the Chazon Ish said, don't put them into yeshiva. They went to the Brisker Rav in Yerushalayim. The Brisker Rav said, don't put them in yeshiva. And finally, when they're 18, so just being with other people, being with other boys. So again, they came to the father brought them to the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish loved them very much, and the Chazon Ish spoke to them in Torah and learning a lot. And the Chazon Ish said to the boys, he said, make sure that you have to go to yeshiva because you have to be with people. Go to yeshiva, but please try hard that the yeshiva shouldn't ruin you. Shouldn't ruin your way of, your father gave you a way of thinking, a way of learning, and that the yeshiva shouldn't ruin you. So that was one thing that he brought down in this article. Then there was another thing that he brought down in the article about how that the tremendous ahavas Yisrael that Reb Gershon had, that he was a very, very loving and understanding person, and these people come in with being very strict that my kid doesn't go to shul, and he would say, you just love the kid, it's okay. So the article goes on to say, where did he get that from? That love of all, and also anybody would come to him, religious, not religious, Kippah Suga, Shreimel. Everybody was happy with every Jew. So where did he get that from? So the answer is because he grew up in a moshav with all these farmers, Yemenites, and this one Syrians and Ashkenazim, and religious, not religious. Ramat HaShon wasn't a religious place, and he grew up with all these Jews. So therefore he's an Amchi, again because he wasn't in the firm world. That's why he has such a habit as well. So I would write a letter to this person and say, but what you wrote in this article is very dangerous. Essentially what you're saying is if you want to save your kid and make him into a big Talmid Chacham, into someone who loves Jews, keep him home. Keep him away. That's what the message, the author never meant that. But he was saying, wow, what a habit as well. How did he come to such a habit as well? The answer is, he was never in an institution. How was he such a big lamdan? In other words, how was he such a creative thinker? He taught Bachim, 17-year-old Bachim. He wasn't till the last month. He was teaching. He didn't go with fancy. In Panevish, he wasn't giving the shiur, to the older guys. He was giving the young guys the Bachim. If you want your kid to be humble and to grow up loving every Jew, keep him away. That was like the message of the article. It's just an interesting thing. So of course, that's not a condemnation, God forbid, of the yeshivas. And our kids have to go to schools, have to go to yeshivas. But it is a ha'ara that's important to remember, that the point of the yeshiva of any institution is not to take away the soul of a kid. It's to nurture the soul of a child. Just as parents. You're going to want every kid to be the same. Every kid to be the same. I had a whole mice a few weeks ago. There was a brother from the community that was saying, there's a whole thing because she came with a son. We were fighting a lot. It came that the mother said to the son, it was the whole thing, we were talking and crying and fighting. And then the mother said to the son, he was kept saying that you don't understand me, and who I am and who I am. So that's what he was saying, and she didn't. She didn't. She wanted him to be like the older brother. The older brother's perfect, everything. So she wants him to be like that. and we spoke about it, Aish. So after this whole thing, the kid's still broken, and the mother's still going after him. And the boy said to the mother that you told Rabbi Weinberger that you were going to let me be, who I am, and that I'm not my older brother. You can let me be who I am. So I asked him, so we did speak about that, So then she said, if I let him be who he wants to be, he's not going to marry the kind of girl we would like him to marry. So I said, maybe he wants to marry a different kind of girl that you don't want him to marry. Maybe that's the girl he would like to marry. But these are conversations that go on all the time. And as parents, I'm guilty of the same thing, mistakes like this all the time, not to hear who the child is. Of course, we try to guide and direct, and we give our best shot at giving over what we believe in and the values that we have and the beliefs that we have. We try, but we have to be so careful not to kill the kid, because that's the loss of tamimus. That's the loss of tamimus. Is you need to pretend to be somebody so we can get you a certain kind of shidduch, the kind of shidduch that we want. So you need to pretend to be somebody. We said that we're going to lay off of you, and we're going to let you be yourself. Yes, but after you get married, and that's what happens. Mm-hmm. And then you have this nice girl. She marries some guy that was parading as Mr. Ben Tyrer, right? Oh yeah. This was going on. Because he had to play the game, because he was told for 10 years, unless you go along with this, unless you present a certain way, you're not going to get the girl. So he tried to present. He didn't try. And then he gets married. It's very nice. And Shabbat is comes out who he really is. And the girl says, "What's going on over here? I didn't." This is not what I expected. I thought my husband goes to shul 2 times a day. I thought my husband learns, every day. I thought my husband has Yoshemayim. I didn't know my husband is going to sit, on the video games for movies for 2 hours a day. And that's what they told me in seminary, to marry this nice boy for this night. And my teacher said, yes, this is the right kind of family, the right kind of boy. And it was all a mischak game. Because the poor guy, he didn't do anything bad. He was just doing what he was told to do, was to go along. So he's pretending, and it's hard for him, and that's why every now and then it came out, because you can't pretend like that the whole time. It breaks sometimes. So then the Rabbi says, no, but really, he's a good guy. He had like a bit, difficult month, but he's back on track. There's no. The difficult month was being who he wants to be. He's back off track now from who he really wants to be. And if you would try to work with a person who he really wants to be, he could be a fine Jew. Wouldn't necessarily be exactly the model, that you wanted, but he'd be a fine Jew. He'd be a fine person. So then you marry this guy off. In the middle of his pretensions, you marry him off. In the middle of the Broadway production, you marry this guy off, and he's Mr. Ben Torah. The next thing he's doing is he's sitting in shul on a Shabbos morning after davening, an hour and a half later, drunk with a couple of guys. And the wife is sitting at home with the food getting cold, wondering what happened to my Talmud Chacham, my Tzaddik, my Ben Torah. What happened to him? He's just back. He's back in his element. He's just back to himself. It didn't have to be that way that he's drunk on a Shabbos morning. It's just he was pretending for a long time, and he broke. And unfortunately, since there was so many games that were going on and so much pretending, that and the real person wasn't addressed, the real person wasn't helped, so that he doesn't know what to be when he's 28, and there are 3 kids that are waiting for Abba to come home for lunch on Shabbos. He doesn't know who he is. So he's sitting there in shul drinking with a couple of guys. And there are worse things than that too. And then everybody sits from his teachers. What happened to him? What happened to him? He was once upon a time a little boy. And he was under your watch, but you didn't see him. You wanted him to be somebody that you could be proud of, and you wanted to produce a certain type, a certain style that you wanted to produce. You didn't see the kid, and now you want him. What happened? Drunk. 12:30, 1 o'clock, sitting drunk someplace with a couple of guys in shul. Every now and then, lifting up their heads to sing some zmiras. This is already much better than other things. And the wife sits there. I thought he was a Ben Torah. You never heard of such stories? This didn't have to happen. This didn't have to happen. And of course, there were some guys that shouldn't be sitting at all. Should be sitting for a half hour, 45 minutes in the classroom, and they shouldn't be sitting at all. I'm not talking about when you're in 6th grade or something like that. But when you're, they shouldn't be in the classroom. What happened to him? And he could learn Torah, and if the Torah would be the Torah that he could connect to and to understand and so on. But the loss of tamimus is the loss of self, and then the boys feel that they have to pretend, they have to make believe, and then at some point, how long can you go on acting? You know, at some point you fall apart, and things get complicated in life. You could only imitate for so long. It doesn't work out. This is the chait of Adam Arish. Therefore, the shorish of all is the root of all affairs. It's the root of all chait. Is this inyan of this death that comes to the innocence of being who you were created to be. That doesn't mean we have to, of course, control our impulses, and it doesn't mean that you can't imitate good things to try to improve yourself, but yourself, your own upgrade, not to become somebody else, to improve. And we're supposed to you're supposed to admire chashuva people and try to learn from other people, become a lamda eskalti, and to learn from other people to try to become a better person, but not to become another person, not to become him, because then you're just imitating, and then the game ends. And then your wife is stuck with who you really are. She never would have married that guy, or vice versa. She never would have married the guy if she would have known. And there aren't thousands of women that are sitting thinking, "What did I get myself into? Who's this guy? What am I gonna do with him? He's like, I got some 35-year-old baby. I don't know what to do with this guy. What am I gonna do with him? I'm trying to raise a family, and this guy and my husband is struggling with pornography. I'm busy with carpool. I'm busy with homework, and my husband's looking at his phone at pictures of naked ladies. I'm sorry to say. What's going on? It's not all over the place. There isn't a week that I don't have a conversation like this with somebody. And the woman doesn't understand what is this? I married like the guy who's the top guy, big guy, entire this. to learn. We spent the first 4 years in Yerushalayim, and he's he's just looking at pictures. And she's trying to have a serious life. She's busy trying to raise children, and spielt with this and that, all kinds of crazy things. And the person that I married is dead. That's what it is. The person, the person I married, the guy under the chuppah, that good-looking guy under the chuppah with the hat and the jacket and the suit and the serious look and the whole, that guy's dead. And here's a picture of my husband. And she opened the crack of a door. He's sitting with his phone and the light in his face with his obsession. Here it is. Here's the guy from under the chuppah. A picture. It's Tisha B'Av. That discovery is Tisha B'Av. But it begins many years earlier. When does the child first eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil? When is the first exposure to the snake and that loss of the self? That's what this is about. Because the or of Elokus is something that's from within the person, and it shines outward, but it begins inside. The or of Elokus is within the self. Ki or Elokus nimshach al adam mibifnim hachutza. Mibifnim hachutza. The or of Elokus. Mitoch nishmas haneshama. Mitoch nishmas haneshama. That's where the person lives. That's where he comes from. Nishmas haneshama. And it comes mitoch, the person, that or of Elokus comes mitoch nishmas haneshama el haneshama. It comes from the Rabbi who's inside, and that or of HaKadosh Baruch Hu inside goes to the neshama. In other words, the nishmas haneshama is Hashem, and the neshama is the person. And then in an ideal situation, you're behaving in accordance to your neshama, and your neshama is connected to nishmas haneshama Hashem. So that means that your guf, your body, is living a life of kedusha and tahara, of who you are. The nishmas haneshama Hashem speaks to your neshama. Your neshama listens, passes that along to the ruach. The ruach passes that along to the nefesh passes that along to the guf, and you have a tzaddik. L'chein Kodesh yischaber adam im or Hashem. Therefore, in order for the person to be connected to the or Hashem, in makor chayev, tzarich lias kashel in nishmasa. He has to be kashel in neshama, his own neshama. His neshama is what hears from Hashem, and then he's supposed to pass that along until it gets to the guf. Ukshem is not take me atzmo, but if the person is detached, is far away from the neshama, then the guf is listening to some other voices. And what's the guf listening to? It used to be ABC or CBS or something. Now the guf is much more scary. It's not ABC or CBS. The guf is listening to the snake. And the snake has every generation, and now it's not every generation, it's every 6 months or a year. The snake is mislavish in different levushim. As you know, the snake sheds its skin, and it's on the skin, sheds its skin. The snake has different levushim. The snake has different levushim. But the snake was in 1930 is not the way the snake is in 2023, but it's the voice of the snake. So in those years, it was pull some yeshiva bacher off to communism or something, and whatever, and now it's a different thing. It's not, it's different, but it's the snake. Ukshem is not take me atzmai. Aish is not take chalilim Hashem. And when the person is separated from himself, then he's chalila separated from Hashem. That's what happens. That's the result. Next page, Tom Ames. This is the aside that the moral is teaching us. That we just learned this. How he explains that the opposite of Tom is Bogade, which שלמה Melech said. The opposite of Tamimus is Begida. But you're a traitor to yourself. You're faithless to yourself, unfaithful rather to yourself. Mainly you're unfaithful to everybody else because you're pretending. The first one that you're tricking is yourself. The first one you're unfaithful to is yourself, and then you're unfaithful to this and that. Then you're unfaithful. That the root of death is that leaving oneself, leaving the ani ha'atzmi. Tamimus is that healthy connection that a person has, the living and healthy connection that a person has to oneself. The tiviuso is natural self. Upashtuso. And pshitus. In a very simple way, in a very clear way. It's pashtus. And the opposite of time is meis. Because the makor of life is one's neshama. You cannot substitute the neshama for any mekasem shav or any charismatic, attractive, interesting thing on the outside. You can't. The neshama is the person himself. Haniya chutza, shikha, this inyan of running outside of oneself. Shikchas haneshama atzmis, forgetting one's own neshama. Va'begidaba and betraying one's own neshama. It's a betrayal. Hein ha-pesach l'mavis. That's the gateway, the entrance into that which is called death while you're alive. Pesach l'mavis, lahamotas ha'atzmius, the killing the atzmius, ha'anius, the ani, lishtabdus lazar l'neichar, becoming meshubed, becoming enslaved to a stranger. Hatam bareach mehazar. The tam, a person who has this midah of tamimus, runs away from strangers, from anything that's not him. Uchedivrei amaral. The opposite of the tam is a person who doesn't go with tamimus, he goes with all kinds of tachbulas. Tachbulas means all kinds of strategies, all kinds of cheshbainas, tachbulas, tricks, strategies. Everything is a kunz. Everything is a hack. You know, it's not straight. Kinds of things. Which is davazar, which is something strange, stranger to him. And the end is from all tachbulas, from all of these strategies and all these games, all these tricks, these games is ra. It's bad. The tachbula, the game, the strategy, the cheshbainas, destroy, injure the atzma shalad, the person himself. It says that Selma says that in order to win a war, the simple pshat in the pasuk is that you have to fight with all kinds of strategy. B'sachbula is tasel l'macham. And this one we'll talk about that. When you fight against the Yitzhar, you have to have all kinds of, plans and strategies. That's the simple pshat. But on a deeper level, B'sachbulos, when you live a life of tachbulos, of strategizing, meaning not being honest to yourself and playing the games, doing that dance. So then the end of it is rak milchama, all kinds of milchamas. Like this husband and wife that are now fighting the whole time. And she's crying. I didn't want to live this kind of life. And he's saying, let me be this. Don't stop being my mashgiach. You're not my Rosh Hashiva. Leave me alone. She's crying. I don't want to be a Rosh Hashiva. I thought I was marrying an Elech Yid, and you're not. These fights, milchamas. Tagbulos merlidas rak milchama. It has to bring to a milchama. Because since you were impersonating, you were presenting. Since you were a pretender, so then when things become complicated and you can't pretend anymore, so then the real self comes out, and then there are going to be all kinds of milchamas, because people thought you were somebody else, and you're not. So now you're at odds with all the people who accepted you for who they thought you were, and you're not. So there's all kinds of milchamas that are going on in your life, internally, externally. And all of a sudden, guys are from guy, all of a sudden, or a woman is a from woman. All of a sudden, she wakes up. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm done with the Yiddishkeit. Because the whole thing was a tachbula. He didn't feel that was himself, and she didn't feel that it was herself, the Yiddishkeit. So then it was a whole tachbula. Of course, it is himself. It is herself, but that's not how they felt. They were pretending. So then, all of a sudden, you see people that were from. Had raised family. All of a sudden, there's no Yiddishkeit. It's gone. The whole thing, they were pretending. Of course, the Parental is inside, and if they would have connected in that way, then they wouldn't chalila go away. So hatachbulas merlidas rak milchama. Ubetesefes tzachus tasa lecha. I'm a tasa milchama ematzmecha. So besachbulas, when you're playing these games, tasa lecha milchama. You're at war with yourself. That's a very deep shot. When you're playing these games, sachbulos, then who are you at war with? Yourself. The milchama is against yourself, because it's at the end of the day, it was a self-betrayal. Yeah, it turns out that you're fighting with your wife. It turns out that whatever your friends, but panemius is that you betrayed yourself. Now you're unfaithful to your wife, you're unfaithful to your parents, you're unfaithful, but the panemius is that it began as being unfaithful to yourself. Tasa l'chom milchama. That's the milchama. Tasa milchama matzmecha. Case now, now we understand what the Maral is telling us. What Shalom Melech is saying is the opposite of a tom is a boged, a traitor. We usually think of the opposite of an innocent or tmimistic, naive person as somebody who's very shrewd, and conniving and shrewd. Which is true. That's true. But that's only part of the story. The moral gets like he always does. The moral goes right, boom. The moral goes kolea. The moral always is like that. It gets right to the shorish. And the moral says, no, the opposite. All those things are symptoms of a loss of tmimus. A clever character, shrewd. All of that is games. Those are symptoms. But the shorish is betrayal. Abogay. Ha-time hu ha-imun ha-atzmi. Tmimus is trusting in oneself, confidence in oneself, belief in oneself is tmimus. V'hayishonus v'hayishtaychus ha'amuka shel adam l'ma shehu, relying upon and trusting and being connected to ma shehu, who you are. L'ma shehu. V'ilu ha-boged, the traitor, the betrayer, the unfaithful, the faithless, boged ba'atzmo. He's boged ba'atzmo. B'meshehu. Shorish kol ha-begidas kulan ha-begid ha'atzmos. The root of all faithlessness, whether it comes with Hashem or being unfaithful to your friends or to your spouse, or your children, whatever it is, the root of all of that is ha-begid ha'atzmos, being unfaithful to yourself. Ayekah Shiur shel ha'adam letiva, denying your own nature, your own teva, who you are. Liyoshro, like Hashem created, Elokim asos adam yosher, to that natural, healthy yashus of who you are. L'metzius o k'fi shebar Hashem Yisbarach, and the metzius that Hashem Yisbarach made, that He created. Hatam mole imun ve'emunah. The Tom is filled with trust, confidence, and faith. He's a faithful person, full of faith. Because he doesn't look for God and he doesn't look for happiness somewhere else. He finds it within himself. The trader is empty. It's a vacuum. And he looks for filling that vacuum some way outside of himself. Food, girls, guys, stuff, excitement, entertainment. He's trying to fill himself outside of himself. He's the opposite of the natural Yashus and the natural Teva that are the foundations of his personality, of his character, of who he is. And the beginning of all this is the Chet HaKadmoni. You remember that the beginning of Baloischa, so Aaron had a Chalishas Das, right? Rashi brings down, and the Siyim were bringing all kinds of, all the gifts, the Agolos, and the offerings, and Aaron the Kohen is like, here he is, the Kohen Gadol Aaron, and I didn't do what I was, so Hashem Yisbarach said to him, I'm giving you the candles every day. Your job is the candles to clean up fix the wicks and arrange the candles and to light the candles. That's your job. So the Ramban, others, he's talking about also Chanukah. So Chanukah is over here. Elaine this Chanukah. So Chanukah take over here. Candles. But the simplest shot. I was talking a little bit yesterday to the women we were together by. We had this little, my wife and I, this coffee conversation. The simplest shot is that Hashem was saying to Aaron, Rabbi Aaron, that stuff is not you. That's not your Indian in this world is to fix Jews and light them, it's the everyday what you do. Your Indian is not the big grand event. Your job is to go running after people saying, your wife is really, she misses you so much. You had a fight. She told me she misses you, like he used to do, right? So it's not glamorous. Aaron didn't have like Hashem was saying, but this is who you are. Your Indian in this world is to fix candles. Like Lubavitch goes back from the Rebbe. I think it was already from the Rashab or the Rayatz. I don't remember. No, it could be the Rebbe Marash first said it. That to be lamplighters, right? That's your job, Aaron. You're looking for something. What are you looking for something else? You want that's their Indian. But you, Aaron, this is your Indian. Is no one is watching, quiet, still. You go in your own way and fix candles. No, that's where you're going to find your Aish. That's your Simcha. That's your Indian in this world. Is to light candles. Is to help people. That's your Indian. I don't want you to make something in Madison Square Garden. That's not your Indian. This is Shalcha Gedolim Shalahem. The Moshe was saying that what I'm giving you is much bigger than that. It's a much bigger thing than that. The Ikra is Shalcha. Every one of us has to know Shalcha, that what I gave you, your own personality, your own traits, your own family, your own neshama is Gedolim Shalahem, is greater than anybody else's that you would try to imitate. Not that you're better than other people. But for you, this is what fits you. Shalcha Gedolim Shalahem. Don't try to be Shalahem. Shalcha. The only Geduli you're going to find in your life, if it's Shalcha. Shalcha, what's you, who you are, is Gedolim Shalahem. Lahagit Shvachal Shal Aaron Shawat Shalom Sheila. The greatness of Aaron was he didn't change. So everybody's asking the Pshat and Pasuk, Vayas Ken Aaron. Aaron did what Hashem told him. Lahagit Shvachal Shal Aaron Shal Sheila. This is the greatest praise you can say to him, that he didn't change, so that everybody's asking that he didn't go against Hashem. That's the greatness of Aaron. If Hashem would speak to me personally like that, I also would be a good boy. So all the Svarim said the same thing. No, the greatness of Aaron was that he always remained Aaron. Shalishina. He didn't change. He didn't make himself into something else. He was the same Aaron. The same Aaron in Mitzrayim. The same Aaron his whole life. He was Shalishina. This is Aaron. This is Aaron. And Aaron is the, or Nun is that light of the Chamishim Sharabina. Aaron, you find that only inside of yourself. Shachad Gedolim Mishalahem. We should be zeichet to find each one of us that bar. Yeah.